So the very first one that I recall was from when I was 5. I was getting my hair brushed and styled by my mom for the school day. She had me standing near the window of my grandfather's room. I guess because it was like the best lighting in the house. It was like on the southeast side of the house. And anyway, well, she was grooming my hair. I was looking out the window when I saw a figure on the other side of the glass. It was a weird featured old woman in a long dress. She had the facial features of what most people would want to call a witch. She seemed to be trying to communicate with me, but I had no idea what she was mouthing to me. I don't recall the color of her dress, but I guess I just couldn't get past the color of her skin and her freaky eyes. Her skin looked like it had been deprived of oxygen, and I'm guessing it was blue-green, like a light blue-green. As soon as I established in my mind what I was seeing, she displayed her power of levitation, and as she was motioning me, that she was digging a hole and pointing to it. As fast as I would... It's really hard to do this captioning thing here. Yeah. I don't have the gift of gab. I had to put this in an app to help me tell my story. It's hard to get words out of me. Maybe this is why. This is part of the reason why. She was digging a hole, pointing to it. As fast as she would point, she would float closer to the window. And when she did, her eyes would widen and spin. I think she was trying to hypnotize me with this act. I would have fainted if I wasn't so mesmerized at this point. My mother told me later that she noticed me acting strange and whimpering, but I couldn't utter any words to express my fear. I pointed at the window, and she couldn't see anything. What is worse, she left me there in my catatonic state. I was frozen solid, as this witch kept repeating all of these motions. Digging, pointing, laughing, like a grin, a scary, scary grin. Coming closer, eyes spinning. Mom had run out to see if anyone out there was frightening me. She saw no one. I have no idea how long it lasted or how it disappeared, but when I could talk again, I told her what I saw. She said she saw no witch, no hole, nothing out of the ordinary. I had called in this recollection of my first haunted house, haunted family stories. Just some podcasts, a couple of podcasts know the story. Yeah, I probably shared them somewhere on YouTube anyway. Hopefully this is all going to fit on here. I'm probably going to have to split this up because, all the background noise. Sorry about that. Anyway. So these are some of the stories, the haunted stories that are like hard to believe, but they're true. And for reference, this has all happened in Yuma, Arizona. So follow for more. I would like to share some of my stories, my mother's stories. See you next time. Thank you. Alright guys, so story 2. My mom was working at Pick and Save, which went on to become McFrugal's, and later on it was Big Lots. Well, anyway, she pulled up after work, back home, working a late shift, and myself and my grandparents were living there in the house with her. We were probably getting ready for bed around this time. The sun was down, and I guess it was winter, because she probably got out at like 7 or 8, and so the sun was already setting. So anyway, she pulled into the driveway, and behind her other car that was parked there, right there by our bedroom would be the driveway, and like a covered driveway. She pulled in behind there. There was like one of her 60s old Volkswagen Beetles. That's the other car she had. So she had gotten a new car by this time, an 80s red model Chevrolet. I don't know. So anyway, Mom was stunned. She was sitting there getting out of the car. She looked in front of her and she saw the shadow of a man with his hands on the steering wheel. He was just sitting in the driver's seat, like stiff. And she saw him from the sides and behind, like the driver's seat. I'm guessing that's how she saw the way she described it to me. Anyway, when you ask her now, she doesn't remember if he moved. But when I recall, when she told me back when it happened, I remember she was motioning like his hands were on the wheel, both hands. So back and forth, back and forth. And Mom always kept her cars locked, so it couldn't have been a break-in. I don't really doubt it. She, had her keys with her and her spare keys to the other car on her keychain, and, it should have been locked up, right? So I think that kind of rules that out. Anyway, so it seems like further proof that it's the plot where the old house stands. Not my house anymore. My cousin's house. Well, anyway, speaking of my cousins, they swear it's the whole neighborhood that has had all these kind of experiences. Yeah, even the neighbors had shared some things that were going on. So, subscribe for more, follow for more. See you next time. I had gotten my first real record when I was 9. Any guesses to what 1981 record this was? Well, anyways, my family was in the kitchen finishing their dinner. I must have inhaled mine, or they just got on to chatting amongst themselves. So I wanted to dash off on my own to record that record, to enjoy that record on the family record player. I was sitting on the living room floor. By the way, we had a very Space Invaders print rug in there, comfortable enough to sit on. So as I sat there against the speaker, jamming to the music, a small, fluffy, multicolored dog peeped its head through the door. We had no doggy door in the front of the front door, We didn't have a fence. We lived on a busy road, so no way we would have installed one. That's a no-go. So this little guy was a friendly little face, and the rest of its body materialized until the whole dog had passed through the front door. It didn't give any bad vibes to me, so I openly greeted him to come over to me. I didn't find nothing wrong with the situation, and I don't know how that could be, How did I not think that was kind of weird? There was another door that led like a straight shot from our living room and our dining room, and it would swing open and shut, but it must have been shut at the time, so Mom and grandparents didn't witness the same thing I did. I had the physical dog in my arms and took him to the kitchen so that the adults could see him. I explained that he walked through the door without me touching it. I did not touch the door. I did not open the damn door. It was always locked. Always locked. We had, even though it was the 80s or whatever, right? We still had the door locked. Did not touch the door. I don't think my mom believed me, but my grandma was sure scared and ordered her to toss it outside and started praying. She thought it was evil, and I looked on, not really understanding what just happened. So that's the next experience that I could recall. I hope to see you again for my next one. Have a good week. So my next story time here is more of a possible OBE, better known as an out-of-body experience. After my 10th birthday, I was like binging really hard on some candy, like hard candy, and developed a cavity. So I had a bad toothache, the kind that throb and you can feel your heartbeat at the same spot. It's really sore in your mouth. If you've ever had one of those, you know how bad, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Well, anyway, it was a hot August day. I like this one. No. And I had numbed the area with some type of toothache medicine, the kind that has the little red cross symbol on it. I wanted to take a nap, so I laid down in my room. I guess the stuff numbed it well enough that I fell asleep. While that was happening, I was convinced that I had an out-of-body experience because I saw and felt myself float up off the bed and touch the ceiling. I also saw myself land slowly and gently back on the bed. And I woke up so tired and drained. It was really odd. I don't know if anyone's ever had a dream like that. They see themselves do that, feel everything like that. So real. Anyway, now recounting this story, it's reminding me of the time that my mom told me about the time she almost passed away as a child after having a tooth pulled and it couldn't stop bleeding. And she said she saw the clouds parting, rays of the sun, and the stairway to heaven. So she had also passed out, then later woke up to ask her mom for food. She was like, I'm hungry. And then, oh, my grandma was crying and everything. Yeah, so I think this counts as one of those types of experiences. So what do you think? All right, follow for more. Thank you. Hey, so this is part 1 of Storytime 5. Around the beginning of 1986, my grandmother was getting more and more frail. She was in the hospital with pneumonia and probably some other health complications for many weeks. I was in school for much of it, so Mom and the other adults were keeping me in the dark with the seriousness of her condition. There was one shopping trip that I had asked Mom to buy Nana a get well soon candle. I think my aunt finally convinced her to be honest with me about her prognosis. Sometime later, she might have been in a coma. And we went to visit her at the hospital. My mom and aunt went inside to see her while I was in the waiting room. They might have had like rules against me going in to see her at the age. I was 12, I was too young to go in, supposedly. But I guess since they told me it might be my last chance to say goodbye, I risked getting in trouble and made my way to her room. I opened the door, and right at the threshold, there was a solid, invisible barrier that was impenetrable. I saw Nana lying in the hospital bed with the lights illuminating her. I took in the sight of the whole room, but could not move forward. And believe me, I tried. It was like the room was protected by a giant thick wall of glass I couldn't feel or knock on. But it was more like a magnetic type force field. I guess my confusion led me back to the waiting room, where I told my mom and aunt what happened. They said something like, she didn't want you to see her in that condition, so that was her doing that. Follow for part 2 of 5. And this is part 2 of Storytime 5. My grandmother was very special and even had a strong psychic ability. She knew specific people were going to call or visit hours before they did. And she was also a curandera, which means she was a healer and performed spiritual cleansings, limpias, on friends and family, possibly also friends of friends, made little herbal teas, and had a strong religious muscle. She passed away on Friday, the 13th of February, and I was devastated, of course. The day of her wake, I couldn't go in to see her. I didn't think I was strong enough to handle it. So thankfully, my mom didn't make me go against my better judgment, and I sat outside the funeral home where it was held. I got to witness a sun shower, where it rained with not a cloud visible in the sky. I took it as Grandma saying, "It's okay, I understand," to me. Sometime after, I had the Get Well Soon candle near the TV. Very sad that I never got to give it to her. I walked into the kitchen for my dinner, then walked back into the living room holding my plate, and the candle was gone. Searched the whole house for it. Nothing. Love you, Nana. Follow for more. Bye.